The journey had been long, the cost high, and now the final truth was within reach. I had pulled into my son's driveway on Clover Hill Road that Thursday afternoon, a birthday present in hand for my grandson. Ryan's truck was parked outside, but beside it, a white Audi caught me off guard. Simone, my daughter-in-law, had flown to Chicago Monday morning for a medical conference. That morning she had texted me a photo of her hotel view, the skyline gray and glittering, and I had replied with a simple thumbs-up emoji. I stepped out of my truck, approached the front door, and that's when I heard her voice through the slightly cracked living room window. He won't fight it. He never does. By the time the petition moves through the court, everything will already be repositioned. And Claire, Ryan, my son, she said, Claire will go along once I explain that we're protecting him. She'll think it's her idea. I froze. My hand hovered just inches from the doorbell. The property trust closes on the 30th of November, she continued. The Harlan County parcels, the house on Sycamore, all of it. Once we have the conservatorship order, his signature is irrelevant. He's not incompetent. He doesn't have to be incompetent. He just has to appear that way long enough. A pause. Then her voice asked about the logs. The missed appointments, the wrong prescription refills, the repeated calls to Ryan's office. Patterns become medical opinions. Medical opinions become court orders. I stepped back, turned, and walked to my truck, setting the birthday present on the seat, and drove away without ringing the doorbell. I was 69 years old, a licensed civil engineer for 37 years in Lexington, Kentucky. I had built subdivisions, designed drainage systems for the Bluegrass Parkway, and raised 2 children with my wife, Margaret, in our home on Sycamore Lane since 1989. I was not confused. I was not declining. Yet I had just overheard my son and his wife plotting to convince a judge otherwise. By the time I reached the Kroger parking lot on Nicholasville Road, my hands had steadied enough to make a call. 3 years ago, at a Rotary lunch, I had met Dale Puitt, who ran a small investigative firm out of a converted office on South Broadway. I had tucked his card into my wallet and forgotten it until now. He picked up on the second ring. I told him someone might be preparing to steal everything I owned, and I feared my son was helping them. He asked simply, "When can you come in?" The next morning, I brought only my memory of what I'd overheard. Dale listened quietly, then asked questions I hadn't expected. Did Ryan have signing authority on my accounts? Had I updated my estate documents recently? Had I signed anything in the past year without reading it carefully? That last question hit hard. Margaret had passed away 14 months prior, taken swiftly by pancreatic cancer. In the months that followed, Ryan and Simone had been attentive, helping with paperwork, bringing meals, sitting with me through estate settlements. Several times Ryan placed documents in front of me at the kitchen table, updates to the property trust, routine insurance renewals, and I signed where he pointed. Grieving, trusting, exhausted. I had signed where he pointed. Dale nodded slowly. "We need to find out what you actually signed," he said. The Fayette County Property Records Office opened at 8, and I was there at 8:02. The clerk seemed mildly surprised when I requested all filings related to my name and the Callahan Family Property Trust over the past 18 months. 40 minutes later, she returned with a folder. By the 6th document, I had to set the papers down and breathe. A deed transfer dated April 9th, 7 months after Margaret's funeral, moved the Harlan County parcels 240 acres of eastern Kentucky farmland that Margaret's family had held since 1962 from the Callahan Family Property Trust into something called Bluegrass Legacy Holdings LLC. My signature was at the bottom. I had never heard of the LLC. I photographed every page and drove to Dale's office. Dale spread the documents across his conference table in silence. Then he turned his laptop toward me, showing a shipping confirmation, a self-inking signature stamp, custom engraved, delivered to the downtown Lexington office Ryan used for property management, ordered 14 months ago, 3 weeks after Margaret's funeral. "This is how they did it," Dale said quietly. "Buried inside legitimate paperwork. You sign the real documents. They stamp your name on the ones you would never agree to." The coffee I had brought in had gone cold. Outside, Lexington moved through an ordinary Friday. People walking dogs, stopping at crosswalks, trusting the world as they found it. "Total value?" I asked. Dale pulled up a spreadsheet. The Harlan parcels, the Sycamore house held in trust, and 3 commercial lots on Winchester Road, somewhere between $5.8 million and $6.2 million, all transferred or in process to the LLC. I sat with the number. "We fight back," Dale said. "But I need to know one more thing first. Your daughter Claire, where does she stand?" I thought of Claire, 38, living in Louisville with her husband and 2 boys. She had been there at Margaret's bedside in the final week, sleeping in the hospital chair, refusing to leave, quiet, watchful, careful with the truth. I didn't know. They said she'd fall in line once Simone talked to her, I admitted. "That's not the same as saying she already has," Dale said. That evening I made 3 calls. First, to Dr. Pamela O.A. at the University of Kentucky Medical Center, a neurologist recommended by Dale, with no connection to my usual physician. I scheduled a cognitive evaluation for Monday morning. Second, to Frank Barber, a Lexington accountant specializing in forensic accounting for estate disputes, to review documents of unauthorized asset transfers. Third, I hesitated nearly 10 minutes before calling Margaret's old iPhone, given to me weeks before she entered hospice. "Keep this," she had said. "You'll know when to look." I hadn't been ready to look yet. The following Tuesday, Simone arrived at my front door, dressed composed and expensive, charcoal blazer, hair pulled back precisely. She smiled, warm and practiced, slightly too perfect. "I came back early from Chicago," she said. "I missed the boys. Can I come in?" She moved through the living room with ease. She sat, crossed her ankles, and looked at me with calculation wrapped in concern. Gerald," she said, catching herself. "I wanted to talk about the estate documents Ryan brought last month." "Bernard. Your attorney, Mr. Graves, says a few things are outstanding." Her ignorance of my actual attorney, Karen Elwell, was evident. I said I'd look them over. Her eyes drifted toward the stack of papers I had left deliberately face down. "You know," she said, "Ryan and I have been so worried about you living here alone. This house is big for one person. We've been thinking." "I like this house," I said. "Of course you do." She paused. "I just want to make sure you know everything we're suggesting comes from love, George. You built something remarkable. We just want to protect it." After she left, I checked every room. Office desk, filing cabinet, nothing missing, nothing obviously disturbed. Yet everything felt re-examined, shifted. 2 Sundays later, Ryan came for dinner alone. We talked, carefully, about ordinary matters. Over coffee, he set a folder on the table. Power of attorney. Broad, giving him authority if something happened to me. "I'd like to look these over with Karen first," I said. His face shifted, not anger yet. Adjustment. He nodded. The call came Friday evening. Dale's measured voice delivered the news. Emergency guardianship filed that afternoon at Fayette County Circuit Court by Ryan and Simone. Hearing scheduled for November 14th. 17 days. Dr. Way ran 3 hours of evaluation. Memory sequences. Executive function. Spatial reasoning. Verbal fluency. "Your results are well within normal range," she said. "Strong for my age and stress level. No indicators of cognitive impairment." Frank Barber spread color-coded spreadsheets. In 10 months, through forged transfers and the use of a signature stamp, $5.9 million in assets had moved from the Callahan Family Property Trust to Bluegrass Legacy Holdings, LLC. Ryan and Simone were managing members. The LLC had been formed 11 days after Margaret's funeral. "Can we prove I didn't authorize the transfers?" I asked. "The stamp is key," Frank said. "Forensic document examiners can distinguish a stamp impression from a handwritten signature." That was my strongest argument. Karen Elwell, experienced in elder law, warned. The hearing would be adversarial. They'd present patterns suggesting cognitive decline. We'd present evidence of competence and fraud. Expect it to be uncomfortable. They may say hard things about your son, too. We moved sensitive documents to a new safe deposit box. Dale observed silently. He said simply, "In policy." The second week blurred with preparation. Dale traced Bluegrass Legacy Holdings formation through a Louisville attorney, Charles Finch, suspected to be imported specifically to avoid anyone asking questions. That Friday, Claire called. "Dad, can we meet?" "Just us." We met halfway between Lexington and Louisville. She arrived first. Hands wrapped around a cup, careful eyes, jaw set. "Dad," she said, "I need you to trust me for a few more days without full explanation." I agreed. Her chin wobbled, lips pressed together like Margaret used to, holding back tears. Whatever happens in court, she said. Remember, I chose you before any of this started. I couldn't tell you yet. She squeezed my hand, then she left. Claire knew everything. She had never been on their side. The morning of November 14th, the courthouse was cold, gray, early frost coating the steps. Karen met me. Ready? No, I said. Let's go anyway. Inside, Ryan and Simone sat with their attorney, Marcus Webb. Ryan would not look at me. Judge Howard Buckman, early 60s, glasses perched on his forehead, looked over the filings. Mr. Callahan, do you understand the nature of this proceeding? I stood. Yes, Your Honor. My son and daughter-in-law believe I am no longer capable of managing my own life. I am here to demonstrate otherwise. The judge nodded. Proceed. Webb presented a timeline of alleged decline. Missed appointments, check errors, repeated phone calls. He introduced a physician's written declaration of probable early-stage dementia based solely on family reports. Ryan took the stand, speaking with practiced sadness, each detail true in isolation, cataloged to suggest decay. Karen cross-examined. Grief could explain forgetfulness. Minor errors happen to most adults. Ryan faltered. Dr. Way testified via video. Cognition intact, strong executive function, no basis for incompetence. Frank Barber walked through spreadsheets with precision. 11 property transfers, 6 with stamp impressions, totaling $5.9 million, moved into Bluegrass Legacy Holdings LLC. Judge Buckman leaned forward. Are these transfers authorized? Webb hesitated. Mr. Ryan Callahan handled routine trust administration at his father's direction. The judge pressed. Documentation? Webb faltered. Karen stood. Your Honor, I'd like to call Claire Morrison. Simone stiffened. Ryan turned sharply. Claire walked to the stand, calm and composed. I have had concerns about many things, she said, including the petition. I was asked to participate in a scheme. I pretended to support it to understand its full scope. She presented a USB drive with 11 months of documentation. Emails, recorded conversations, bank statements, evidence of asset consolidation and wire transfers to Charles Finch. Ryan's face had gone the color of chalk. Your mother asked you to do this? Judge Buckman asked. Claire nodded. She reached into her coat pocket, producing Margaret's old iPhone. Inside was a single video recorded 6 weeks before Margaret died. The courtroom heard her voice, steady, quiet, and tired. George, I wasn't able to protect you the way I wanted. I found something on Simone's phone. Your name, our property, under a holdings company. I've asked Claire to document what she finds. I trust you. You are the most capable man I have ever known. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I love you. I always will. The room fell silent. Judge Buckman removed his glasses, staring long at Ryan and Simone. Petition denied. George Callahan is fully competent to manage his affairs. Substantial credible evidence of coordinated financial fraud exists. Immediate preservation of all records related to Bluegrass Legacy Holdings LLC is ordered. A full forensic audit at the petitioner's expense, and the return of all assets to the Callahan Family Property Trust pending investigation. Mr. Webb, advise your clients to cooperate fully. The gavel came down. Karen's hand found my shoulder. We won. Across the room, Ryan avoided my gaze. Simone had already slipped out. Claire wrapped her arms around me. You did exactly what your mother asked, I whispered. You saved everything. 3 days later, FBI Special Agent Patricia Nuwan confirmed systematic fraud. 11 forged signature impressions. 3 wire transfers to offshore accounts. Documented relationship between Simone Callahan and Charles Finch preceding the trust formation by 8 months. Simone was detained in Merida, Mexico, pending extradition. Ryan retained counsel, cooperating with investigators. 6 weeks later, Ryan's plea agreement was finalized. 14 months in a federal facility in Manchester, Kentucky, 2 hours from Lexington, full restitution of funds, 10-year prohibition from serving as a financial trustee, $5.4 million recovered, $500,000 tied to offshore accounts unrecoverable without extradition resolution. The Harlan parcels returned to the trust first. I drove out 3 hours east on the Mountain Parkway, the ridgeline stark against the November sky. I thought of Margaret recording that video, choosing her words with precision. 6 weeks before her death, She had been protecting me without my knowledge. I told her what had happened. Courtroom, Claire's testimony, the recording. I acknowledged her foresight and my strength, and that I had not faced it alone. I transferred assets to a new trust naming Claire and her sons as beneficiaries, structured with no unilateral authority, audited annually by an independent firm. Not out of bitterness, but because Margaret had taught me. Love without structure is only hope, and hope is not enough against patience and systematic intent. Ryan called from Manchester. The conversation was thin, institutional. "I don't expect anything from you," he said. I heard him, acknowledged the complexity, and reminded him of Claire. Spring returned quietly to Lexington, red buds blooming behind Sycamore Lane. I hired a vetted property manager, full access, transparency expected. Claire joined us for the first Sunday in April. We made pot roast, mashed potatoes, and rolls. My grandson asked what a property trust was, and I explained, "A way to ensure what you build goes to the people you choose. And the key is understanding the difference between protecting something and owning it." Claire stayed while her husband took the boys home. On the porch, April dusk settling, she asked, "Do you think she knew it would work out?" I thought of Margaret in the kitchen, 6 weeks away from death, trusting love to travel forward through time and arrive exactly where needed. "I think she knew you would make it enough," I said. Claire leaned her head against my shoulder. Streetlights came on one by one. Inside, the hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the kitchen clock, the ordinary music of a life rebuilt, kept, and nearly lost. 69 years old, experienced, clear-eyed, still standing. Margaret had known I would. She had bet everything on it. I intended to prove her right for as many years as I had left. If you've ever felt those closest to you were the ones you most needed protection from, you are not alone. Watch carefully. Trust instincts. Document everything. Sometimes patience is the most courageous act, and justice, though not on schedule, is thorough.